It's Monday evening. That can only mean one thing. Welcome to Let's Talk F1. Oh, that went too quick. Oh, let's try that again. At least that video bit works. We're not sure about the first one.
Live entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. This is prime
live professional entertainment. Monday evening, the first race is in the books. What did you think, Matty? What did you think?
Oh, mate. I mean, there were some things that I really enjoyed about this race. I think it feels like F1 this season is going to be as long as you're not entirely fussed who wins, unless you're a Red Bull fan. But I feel like if you're willing to look past that, I think you're going to have a very fun time. I think there was some really enjoyable on-track action. There was some good stuff. There was some absolute nonsense going on. I'm sure
we'll definitely touch on some of the nonsense, absolutely. But it was great to see the cars. That shot of turn one, that wide shot when 20 cars, sparks were flying. It just sent goosebumps. It was like, yeah, that's it. That's F1 back now.
There's nothing like it. I like that's kind of one of the things I feel like I love most about it is you just watch how accurately these people are able to drive these ridiculous machines, and it's just nothing short of it. Like, it's so impressive. It's so cool. There's nothing quite like it.
Some of that driving last weekend just gone was just amazing, and where they put those cars, how precise they had to be. Some of the overtakes that we'll get into was just astounding. I suppose we've got to start at the top, I guess. Red Bull continuing their very clear dominance. I mean, they literally looked like they could just do whatever they wanted at the front. They changed. They went with a slightly different tire strategy. They won the race by I think there was an 11-second difference between Verstappen and Perez, and then another 20 seconds to the next best, which
that was a good chunk. They were pretty comfy.
I think, and it was interesting listening to some of the drivers in preparation. There was a lot of, we're in the mix with these guys and those guys, but everyone seemed to kind of tactically acknowledge that the Red Bulls were pretty much streets ahead. And I think it showed on Sunday how much further ahead they are race pace wise. Yes, qualifying was great and it was exciting and they got close, but when it get down to the race pace, the Red Bulls just looked a league apart, didn't they?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I feel like setting a car up for like one lap pace and setting a car up to be consistently quick are two very different things. Like, I know obviously we'll obviously get onto it, but obviously like Nico Hülkenberg qualified so strongly, looked really good in qualifying, and then
absolutely amazing. Yeah,
he got into Q3, like ridiculous result. No one expected that has to kind of be there. I thought it was going to be a solid car, but I didn't think he was getting into Q3. And then, obviously, kind of during the race, just sort of fell away. Like, obviously, we'll get onto that. But that Red Bull just looks clean. Like, it's I keep hearing it kind of bandied about a lot, but it just seems a case of like show me the weakness, show me what's wrong with that car.
Where can others catch up? Where can others find something wrong with it? Because at the moment, it doesn't look like it's got any weakness. It's pretty quick in the straight line. Obviously quick around the corners. Tires seem to be, they seem to be able to last on the tires, get the tires up to speed quickly. It could be a long old session. It could be a long old season for everybody else because there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of problems.
I don't think anyone's catching them. Like I said, I think if you're interested in the action behind, really cool, because I think there was some wicked battles. Like, again, I'm sure we'll come on to
just about to start talking about those, but
that Aston Martin Mercedes battle. I mean, maybe that's the next place we go here, because big Nando.
Huge, big Nando. I mean, I just want to call this. I called this last week we made the predictions. I said Red Bull 1-2 with Nando third. I believe you thought I'd gone mad.
I absolutely did. I wasn't sure whether it was going to be like one of those things where everyone gets really excited about Aston Martin, and then it's like, oh, actually, that's not
It
gone terribly
was a
well.
Haas flash in the pan type. They suddenly quick, but never actually showed up. Yeah,
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, my God, what the pace he just unleashed. And like, I don't want to say it's like it's just Fernando Alonso things either, because even Stroll looked pretty good, and I think obviously he's in
considering.
an iffy condition. But yeah, that Aston Martin's looking very strong.
Very strong, very pacey. I loved, towards the end of obviously, just watching the race, the radio message from Fernando just saying this is a lovely car to drive. You can just imagine the relief that was in that radio message from him, because the years and years of Fernando driving pretty much dogs of cars for the last 5-6 years, dragging cars around just by his sheer will. To have him to finally be in a car where it can challenge for podiums and challenge for the odd race win if Red Bull ever do kind of mess anything up. It's an amazing thing for somebody who probably should be more than a 2-time world champion. I think it's safe to say.
I think that's very fair to say. Yeah,
driving talent alone, he should at least have 3 or 4. He's made some unfortunate choices in terms of when he's moved teams.
Yeah,
but I think he some sort of insane records where he's now raced for the most teams in Formula One. I think he's now on his 6th team or something, which is the most in any driver or any sort of driver in history. I think he's now driven for every hybrid powered car,
every engine
supplier. It's like he's literally just ticking off the milestones as he goes. And now I think this is his 99th podium, and who knows, maybe he'll pick up another one in Saudi Arabia in a couple of weeks' time. But it was great to see. And as you say, some of the overtakes that he pulled off, the one on Russell was pretty special, but I think everyone remembers the one on Lewis Hamilton, the inside dive at turn 10. I mean, that battle
of the race for me.
I think it was from turn 1 all the way until turn 10, wasn't it? It was just
so good. And it was such, I really loved watching them two kind of having that battle, because I don't really like how a lot of racing seems to be approached at the moment, where it seems almost very like the defending is so aggressive. Like you are literally forcing the person to overtake you. Like if they want to take that position, they're going to potentially have to dip a wheel off track to get it done. Like I don't really feel like that. I might be in the minority. Like I know some people kind of like the really aggressive driving, but I like watching good, clean racing. And I think those two, obviously the experience just shone through, like watching them just weave through those corners, kind of, they kept getting each other and getting each other back. And then for that overtake to take place where it did, nobody sends it down the inside of that corner.
Not that corner. That corner is horrendously difficult at Sakhir. Everyone knows that's the corner. You go in there, you lock your front left, you go
that's
too
not
deep.
a nice corner
it's
to
a
drive.
horror. And if you've ever played F1 2022, 21, any of the F1 races,
good Lord,
that corner is horrid, because it's off camber, you're downhill, you hit the brakes, you inevitably lock up and squeal.
And it's not just one smooth corner, like you've kind of got the slight corner and then it really goes harsh.
It's horrible. Yeah.
But so, to watch him pull off that move was genuinely disgusting. Like, when you just kind of watching it and you're like, oh, like maybe. But then you're like, no, surely not. And then it's like, oh, hang on, he might go, oh my God, he's done it. He's made it work. He's not locked up. Like
he's not locked. It was everything about it was beautiful. What I particularly loved about it is coming out of the previous corner, the hairpin. He almost sold him going on the outside. He sold him the outside in move, and it was just the way he just cut that. It was such a beautiful move. And as you say, turned not a corner where people overtake at Sakhir, but
never. You just wait for the DRS zone afterwards. You never send it down the inside.
You never do it there, because it was just beautiful. Because I thought what was great was he kept the DRS. He threw it down the inside after getting DRS just before the corner. So one of the radio messages or one of the things that they were talking about, Nando, later on in the race, is how much brain power he uses, not just to drive his car, but I don't know if you heard the radio message about, he uses 25% of his brain to drive the car, but 75% to drive everybody else's races. So to think through what he was doing there, to come up with that plan and that strategy to overtake there, because he knew he'd get the DRS, he knew he'd pull away and therefore be clear by the time, they got, 4 corners around the other side of the track. It was just immense.
I also just think that's one thing I've really grown to appreciate. I feel like with F1 recently is like watching an F1 move happen is not just as simple as, like sometimes
DRS wing
sometimes
open.
it is just
DRS wing open, send it.
Yeah. Sometimes it is just a case of faster car, bang, done, right, whatever. But sometimes it is literally as complicated as like watching a chess match. Like, do you sell it so they try and defend really hard, but then kind of lose a bit of your own pace and having to cut back? Or, do you just pick a line, stick to it and hope that they don't defend too aggressively? Like it's so, or even like trying to get them to defend really hard so that out of the next corner you get a better exit. And some of these moves are being planned in these drivers' heads like 4, 5, 6 corners before they even happen, right? And it is insane to think that these drivers are doing that mental arithmetic in their head whilst driving at 200 miles an hour in like that. Genuinely baffles me. It's absolutely it's absolute insanity. There's no other word for it. It's crazy.
Especially when you see some of the pictures of what those steering wheels look like and how many buttons and gadgets,
how much information is just flashing there at the time.
It's just like, I think there was a shot where Lando was overtaken. I think it was up into the turn 4 incident with Lewis. He was down the inside, he had DRS, but he was also changing his brake bias and his differential at the same time, as well as braking and turning in. And it was just like,
it's insane.
Just watching it, my brain was going, that's too much information. But how these guys can get away with that. But yeah, as you say, that whole sequence of corners where he lined him up and, got him in one corner, then went wide and, lost it in the slide, almost lost the car. It's just, so much amazing driving. It's just amazing to watch. And I think everybody enjoyed seeing Fernando on the podium, even no matter what your, allegiance is, what team you were hoping for, what car you like, etc. To see a guy who's gone through what he's gone through to get on the podium on the first race, who knows where it goes, who knows whether or not it will continue, whatever else. But, what an amazing start for that team.
I just think it's also quite nice to throw like a spanner in the works, a bit of chaos, right? Especially when, at least kind of from the majority of the races, it feels like P1 and 2 are going to be pretty wrapped up this season. Like,
seems like it, doesn't it?
It's just fun to see something else get thrown in, right? Like if Red Bull are always there or thereabouts. Even when Red Bull have been having sort of bad years, they've always just been on like Mercedes coattails or someone else. Like they're always there or thereabouts. Again, if you see a Ferrari driver on the podium, you're never going to question it. That's pretty normal. This was wild. So like, I'm all for it. Let's cause a bit of mayhem. And to be fair, I think with how well he drove that race, like it was deserved. It's not just because the car was really good, just everything he did that race, so deserved. So yeah, I'm really
almost everything. I would say almost everything he did was perfect, because he did run the risk of losing his rear tire quite early on in the race, where he and his teammate Lance Stroll had a bit of a ding dong. Quite a hefty chunk, which I thought was amusing. When amazing they built that car. Pretty strong in Silverstone, so fair play to the Aston Martin team for building cars that can take a few wheel bumps, because there was a few. But I thought the amusement of the radio message, that's an instant puncture, spin, broken front wing, but they both managed to survive it. But also the radio messages must have been real fun between the teams.
They just wouldn't tell him who did it.
Wouldn't tell him who it was, because you just knew, because you remember he was less than enamored when Ocon had hit him from the Alpine team last year. So,
yes.
You can imagine there had to be some judicious choice of language with the radio. It was your teammate, or whether or not they even did towards. I don't think. Some of the radio seemed to indicate that they didn't tell him who it was until quite late on.
Yeah,
it was probably the wisest move.
I did think that was quite funny. I think I found that incident so weird. Like, I get what happened. Obviously, anything, in the first couple of corners of a Grand Prix, it's free game. Like, it's kind of like 75% driving skills, good 25% luck that you make it through those first couple of corners. And I just thought it was so funny that he was kind of battling one of the Mercedes. I can't remember if it was George or Lewis, but he was kind of in prime position to almost hit the Mercedes, but Mercedes managed to move out the way. He misses the Mercedes and clips his own teammate, and I just thought, wow, like that's genuinely incredible that that's happened.
It had to be. Yeah, as you say, because I think it was easy. It was easy. He was either hitting a Ferrari or Mercedes, or maybe taking both Mercedes, but he
somehow
let it go.
All of the competitors' cars and clips his own teammate. I thought,
because Lance Stroll. But then again, you look at it, Lance Stroll came out of nowhere because I think he outbraked himself into that corner.
Yeah,
as well.
I was going to say.
I think I can imagine Lance was sitting there going, "Oh God, no, not Mando, not Mando." But,
I think based on how he went into that, there was no. It was gonna conk something. I think, to be fair, that was probably the best case scenario. Clipped Fernando. Obviously, he very nicely controlled his car to stop that becoming a much worse issue. Happy days. Everyone moves on. We're all good.
Everybody carries on. Fair play to Lance Stroll in his first race back after what started to come out was a couple of broken bones and some keyhole surgery. Broke his toe. Was driving with a broken toe, broke his wrist, had keyhole surgery, and brought a car home after 57 laps in 6th place. Fair play to Mr. Stroll. Maybe we'll take back some of those disparaging comments that we may have made about Daddy and paying for his drive, because he put the car where it needed to and got a damn fine result out of Sunday. I'm
the first person to criticize Lance Stroll, but I think you'd have to give him that. That's a pretty Viking-like performance, to be fair. To be able to, because your car can be as much of a rocket ship as possible. When there is that much counting against you, you're kind of going to assume it's going to go terribly. Like, I remember literally saying to my brother, I went to my brother's house to watch a race, and I was just saying to him before it all kind of kicked off, I was like, I don't have a good feeling about this. Like, Stroll's either not going to finish or something's going to happen. And it just felt bad that he was racing. Like, I had a really worrying feeling about it. So, fair play to him. Fully deserved his good finish. He had a really strong race.
Yeah, you're right. I think it was one of those. Should he be racing with broken wrists? It's like, does that really? But I mean, fair play to the surgeon. Fair play to him. How he got around that. I'm sure he was feeling it on Sunday night, though. That's for sure. But
it's a good 2-week break now. He can take a rest.
Don't drive the car. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, the Mercedes have come out with a pretty strong worded statement from Toto, which has basically sold the team up the river and told them basically the car is a dog and we're binning it. What did you make of that?
Whoa, sorry, what? Have I missed something here? Oh, yeah. What? Oh my God.
Toto I don't know if you missed it. I think it was the Sunday night or it was just, I think it was Sunday in the press, not the sort of television media, but the written media. They had a whole thing, and he's basically turned around and said, "We've gone wrong with this concept. This car is wrong. We can only go so far with it. We're going to have to really think about what's going on." They've basically said,
oh my God, he has.
He's basically said the non-side pod issue is not going to work. We can only tweak it.
The Mercedes will need to completely change their car in order to challenge at the top of it. Wow.
Just bombshell on a Saturday to drop that. I mean, the car, I thought they got the maximum out of those two cars that didn't look that great in testing and didn't look that great in, first practice and whatever else. To get that finish, I thought was pretty good. But obviously from a Mercedes perspective, pretty good for Mercedes is 1-2. So you can understand that they're slightly disappointed to be where they are. But for him to, on a Saturday night, on a race weekend, to basically go, yeah, we're wrong. This car's all wrong. It can only go. I think what I'm reading into that is that they can only go so far with where they can get this car, and there's only so much more they can get out of it, and that's it. Otherwise,
and I think we always said that. That car looks so track specific, and not that that's necessarily a bad thing. But if you're going to want to be fighting for championships, you can't just turn up to some races looking wicked and then, looking just mediocre. The other kind of 75%. It looks very similar to the package they had kind of towards the end of last year, in that it's not spectacular. It's a pretty good race car, and it will kind of rightly so be in the top 7, 8 every race, as long as you kind of race cleanly and stuff. But it just looks comfortable in its own zone, and it is reliable. That's one thing they seem to have going for them. I know there's a couple of reliability problems, which again I'm sure we'll get into, but it doesn't feel like spectacular. And like you said, I guess when Mercedes are so used to 1-2s and kind of nothing but that, that's not necessarily going to be something they're going to be happy with. But wow, that's bold of him to come out already to say that it's done.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's already laying down the gauntlet, if you like, because Lewis Hamilton contract renewal will inevitably raise its head with a car that's not at the forefront. But they've already kind of indicated, no, we know what's happening, we know what's wrong. He'll be back to fight. We'll be back, and everything else. But to literally tear the rule books up or tear up the whole design car, there's no way they can re-engineer that car.
Not with the cost cap. No way.
Not with the cost
if
cap.
money was still no issue, then sure. By the time they come to Baku, they could have totally different looking car. Everything's fine. But that's what I mean. That feels interesting that they have completely said, like, no, it's done. When there's so much of the season left to do, and realistically, there's not much they're going to be able to do to change that this season. That feels wild. That
feels like a watch out next season kind of. Basically, all your engineers, all your aero guys, all the guys back at Brackley are now going, all right, what does 2024 car look like?
We've got some work to do.
We've got some serious work to do. We'll just have to try and keep this car in the top 5 or 6 if we can for the rest of the season with upgrades and whatever else. But we know it can only go so far. We really need to go away and nail next year's car. So maybe the Mercedes will be back next year with an absolute rocket ship, because
I guess the worrying thing for Mercedes is they've obviously spent 2 years now, because obviously you're developing your 22 car still during that 21 title fight.
Yeah.
So they've spent, in theory, probably like 2 years on this concept, and they're now completely abandoning it. What is to say when they design their car now with side pods that it's going to be better? Like, I do have faith in this Mercedes team. Obviously, like, they clearly know how to build a bloody good racing car, but the other teams are going to technically have like a 2-year jump on them on that concept. Yeah, so that's got to be worrying times if you're Mercedes.
It really is. It's got to really put some cat amongst the pigeons amongst the Mercedes kind of support and team and everything else, because as you say, Red Bull, Ferrari, all those teams are 2 years into this.
They already know what they're doing. They know which direction they're heading in. Yeah,
they're just tweaking it to try and make maximize it. Whereas Mercedes are potentially coming in cold, and then only then they'll have 2 years to catch up, and then 2026 new engine makes come in as well. So,
and even then, it's still a cost cap. They can't just throw all the money in the world at this. They've only got X amount of funds to get it right, and if they don't,
and not much aero tunnel time either. So
exactly, and if they don't get it right, they could be in a worse position than they're in right now. Which, if that's the kind of statements we're coming out with one race into the season, this could go like nuclear if this goes wrong.
Yeah, the thing is, that wasn't even one race in. That was one.
Oh God, that's true. Nothing's even happened at that point, has it? Oh my God.
That was after qualifying, where Toto went, yeah, we've screwed the pooch here. We've missed the boat. We haven't taken into account last year's side pods and whatever else. That was
the only thing I can think of is he must be feeling bloody confident they can do a different concept right if he's willing to full on out them like that already.
Have they already got new side pods coming? Is that maybe why he said it? Because I think I remember a rumor about from testing that this was the first.
It was going to be a different spec car. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it's coming. Maybe he's throwing it out there going, okay,
are they doing a McLaren? Are they just going to turn up with a totally different car by the time Baku comes round?
So that was our prototype test car.
Yeah, we gave you a head start. Here's the real car. Yeah. I don't know. Bizarre. Maybe. That's going to be
interesting. But I mean, it's something to watch for the rest of the season. If it is a new car, but in 2 races time, there's suddenly coming new side pods and everything. Even if they do, they're going to have to run 2 Grand Prix as just basic long-term test sessions.
Exactly. That's what I mean. They've done all their testing with this spec as well. Like that's, oh my God.
One good thing is it means Mick Schumacher will get plenty of time in the simulator.
That is true. Mick will be kept busy.
There's a silver lining somewhere.
There always is, mate. You just got to find it. Yeah, no, Mick will
scratch away at the carbon fiber. You'll find a silver lining somewhere. But yeah, interesting times at Mercedes. Very interesting times at Mercedes.
Very. I'm excited now. Like, I guess we should probably move on. What happened to Ferrari, man?
Oh, we're gonna go Ferrari. Okay, we'll go to Ferrari first. Ferrari.
I don't think they Ferrari'd as hard as they've because.
No,
I guess Charles Leclerc breaking down race 1 is not ideal.
No, but if you were going to have a bet on a car breaking down in race 1. I hate to say it, but it's probably going to be Charles Leclerc's
Of course, it'd be Charles as well. I literally thought when they were like, "Oh, it's a Ferrari slowing down," I was like, nightmare for Carlos. And I was like, "Oh, of course it's Charles. Why would it be anyone else?
Why would it be anybody else?" And then obviously,
that poor guy.
And I do think there was a little bit of a miscalculation in the Ferrari strategy, leaving Carlos on those tires. I think he probably was on the wrong tires at the time he was on them, but there wasn't really. I don't think there was really a chance of getting him in under the virtual safety car. I know there wasn't a proper safety car, which would have maybe made it.
That would have made it a lot more
decision.
Yeah.
I know it closed up, but yeah, I think the virtual safety car was potentially a chance to then, it wouldn't have been a full safety car stop, but it would have saved them a fair 15 seconds or so. So it was a chance there. Maybe it would have made a difference, but it was pretty late on by that point, and I think they had already made their decision in terms of what tires they had left. So Carlos was kind of hung out to dry a little bit towards the end. He did look a bit of a sitting duck towards the end in terms of tires, but Charles, it was just inevitable that a Ferrari would break down. Even from Charles, when he heard his radio, he was just like, "Oh no, here we go, not again." It's just all of that worry from last season, all that, have they fixed the reliability, have they fixed the strategy, is it going to be another year of Ferrari being close but shooting themselves in the foot? I don't think they look that close, though. That's the problem.
No, I really hope I am wrong, but Ferrari just feels so defeated already. And it's like, I get the gap is huge. And I think based on that, maybe this year, I know we're only one race in and so much can happen over the course of a season. But I feel like at the moment, at least for this season, Red Bull do just feel kind of inevitable. Like it does just feel like it's going to happen. So I guess maybe you have to accept that probably P2 in like constructors and stuff is probably the best bet right now. But my God, it sounds so defeated. Like, I don't know if that's maybe still some, like ripples from everything that happened last season. Obviously, Charles was a very unhappy man towards the end of last season, which is fair. So to start off a season like that, does this start to, I guess, maybe raise some questions about his Ferrari future? Like maybe if he doesn't believe in the project, obviously no, he was signed to that very long-term deal, but like that was a good few years ago now. I don't know how long's left on that.
Was he year 3 of 6 or something? So
he was like 5 or 6. So it's probably getting towards the point now where maybe if another team say like, this definitely isn't going to happen. I don't think so. Like it'd be a bit wild, but let's say like, after this year, Lewis is like, do you know what? Sack this off. I'm over this, and leaves. It is getting towards the point where a team like a Mercedes could be like, do you know what? We'll pay for him to get out of that contract. Fine. We understand how good he is. Let's do it. And I think then if Ferrari's not doing fantastic and then they lose Charles Leclerc as well, that could be catastrophic. Like I'm sure they'll be okay. Like Ferrari will figure out their Ferrari. But
Ferrari will survive, but there could be a post Schumacher running through damaging, And it's weird because you think of Ferrari, you think of drivers in there for the long term, right? Mansell was there a long time. Schumacher was there for 12 years of dominance and whatever else. And then you suddenly think, well, after that, Alonso went there, Vettel went there, Raikkonen was there for a couple of years. Massa seemed to be the only sort of mainstay for a long time. But they seem to shuffle the deck a little bit more often than I was used to for Ferrari. And, I think that's probably why they went that long term with Leclerc when they signed him up. But yeah, does his head start to get turned if this is another season of, strategy failures and teams getting it wrong and whatever else? And it'd be interesting to see if he starts to look around the paddock going, is there an option for, next year? Is there a better looking, team? I can't see Red Bull changing their 1-2 drivers next year. If Checo's happy, I don't know what contract they're on. But obviously Max is going to be a number one. I can't see I can't see Charles going there to be a number two driver, because anyone who goes to Red Bull is going to be a number two driver.
Does Lawrence Stroll replace his son with Charles Leclerc? Does that happen? Could you imagine Fernando Alonso and Charles Leclerc? What a pairing that would be! Oh my god! Anyway, that could happen.
So yeah,
but I think Ferrari have tried to go back to that. Obviously, with signing Charles to that really long deal, like they obviously want him to be the poster boy, like the new era of Ferrari, right? They want him to kind of lead that, and I think Charles wants that as well.
He's quick. He's won a few races. He's there and thereabouts. He's doing all the right things.
And I think he wants that as well, right? Like he always says how much he loves the team, blah blah blah. But that's got to get tested. Like obviously he's had a couple of troubling years at Ferrari when they had a midfield car and it wasn't fantastic. And then obviously last year they finally produced something that is, at some points was easily the best car last year.
And obviously was above every other car.
We've covered it. Obviously Ferrari'd pretty hard at points last year. And I think maybe it just feels like the atmosphere around the team right now is not good. It just doesn't feel happy.
It felt like they really needed a good result. They needed a 3-4. They needed to be reasonably close to Red Bull. And I think the fact that they were so far off. Not only race pace, but qualifying, they weren't really that close.
No.
And then in races, they just the Red Bulls just scooted away, because they had no sort of nothing. They had no comeback. They had no fight in them at all. They was just like, well, you could tell even with the pit strategy and the tires that they chose, it was just like, we ain't fighting for this. We just got to hold station and take what we've got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like they've just kind of almost gone. We're battling for second place already.
It was just that message over the radios as well that was like, oh yeah, we've just listened into the Ferrari radios and it sounds like they're just happy to settle for third. And I thought, even if that is the case, because it was obvious that Red Bull weren't getting beaten kind of from fairly early on in that race. Even if that is the case, surely you don't admit that. Like, surely you would
say it out loud. You code it, or you say something, don't you?
For the outward-facing audience, you think, don't worry, we've got a couple of plans up our sleeve. Even if everyone's going to sit and be like, we know you're not winning, but surely as the competitor, you wouldn't admit that. Like,
these guys are too quick. You guys are too quick. Bin it in, boys. Just bring it home and park it, because don't waste the engine when turn it all down. It's like you don't say that first race in, halfway in, and you just go, these guys are gone, right? All right, leave it. And then inevitably, as you say, Charles are there. The engine gives up or whatever it was, electrics. I'm not sure exactly what was wrong there. And then Carlos's tires run out and he ends up falling down the end. When did he finish in the end? 5th?
Yes. Wait, no, I think. He must have brought home in P4. No, Lewis didn't. He was kind of comfortably in that zone of like a second, 2 seconds. But
once Mando got past him, there was
couldn't get it over the line. No, I think the Mercedes was kind of spent. I know one thing Fernando kept sort of talking about was maybe the tire deg on the Mercedes not being fantastic as well. So maybe if Lewis spent enough of his tires kind of fighting off Fernando and then just sort of borrowed the pace from him, following him through, and then just couldn't really get it done against the Ferrari. But yeah, no, he didn't. So I think Carlos finished 4th, which is a fair result. But I think when you look at Carlos finishing 4th and the other Ferrari not finishing, that's really probably not what's going to be seen as like an acceptable start. No.
And as you say, not with the Red Bulls being as far ahead as they look already. So
yeah, exactly.
And then unfortunately, we have to now talk about the Alpines.
Oh. Esteban Ocon, what
a race was going. Poor Esteban Ocon. I mean, his race was just done for from literally, I think it was lap 2 when the first thing came in. Of just,
I know what was happening.
It was just so you got a fight. Well, let me just get this right. So we saw the replay. He looked like he might have been half a wheel over the line or something, so he obviously lined up slightly incorrectly, which is fine. So he gets
those boxes are tight, right? Like it happens. Yeah. It happens.
And it looks like he was looking in his mirrors, and he may have misjudged it by literally half a wheel length. I think it looked like.
Mhm.
So so that's a fair penalty. That's a fair cop. And then he gets
Not
a
ideal
5
stop,
second.
but fine. It's only a 5-seconder, whatever. We
5
can work with
second,
that.
the car's reasonably fast, whatever else. He started pretty well. Get it in, get it done, get out, get on with the race.
Yeah.
But then he goes in for his time penalty.
Yeah.
And then the mechanic just ignores the 5 seconds. Literally, just one guy just goes, I'll start unscrewing it. And it's like, what are you doing? So then gets another.
Because that feels like F1 101. That doesn't
Yeah.
feel like complicated. That's a pretty well-known rule amongst, you would hope, everybody.
Especially, I mean, it's a well-known rule post most people watching. So you would hope it's a pretty well-known rule
that one of the engineers for an F1 team would understand.
You're wearing all the uniform. Did you just get like a special day out pass? You don't just randomly run up to a car and go start unscrewing it. Let's
experience.
Go. Yeah. So win an experience. Be an F1 engineer for a day. What could possibly go wrong?
Why not? Why not?
So an engineer starts working on a car within the 5 second penalty. So they change his front wing, send it back out. He then gets a 10-second time penalty for
ignoring the original 5 second penalty.
For messing up with the original 5 second time penalty. At which point Esteban's thinking, right, this is just a joke now.
Yeah.
He then has to goes into the pits to serve his time penalty. But goes into the pits and speeds in the pit lane.
Sped in the pit lane. I mean,
which is it's a slam dunk. As soon as you hear of a car being investigated for speeding in a pit lane, it's 10-second penalty.
It's done. It's done. They're far too accurate at measuring that stuff. That even if you are like a single kilometer an hour over, not the point. And to be fair, I do think that must be such a hard job to do. Yeah, it probably was close. Because I remember hearing on his radio after he was told he had the speeding in the pit lane penalty, he was pretty fuming. Which I guess, to be fair, when you just hear you've racked up officially 20 seconds of race penalties, you're probably pretty miffed by that point.
Miffed by that point. Yeah.
Considering, I guess, the largest penalty of the bunch wasn't his fault. That's probably the most annoying thing.
I think that was the most thing. I think he was a bit aggrieved. He's like, he didn't think he did anything wrong with his bit of it. But literally everything else seemed to be just like, oh, come on now.
Just didn't feel like his day, did it?
It was just, and literally, I've seen this. I have to share this one. Sorry, I'm going to just stop this because this one I have to share. This is exactly what it looked like, and this is exactly how it must have felt to the Alpine team. It's just me. It's just basically like, I'll give it another 15. And I think in the end, didn't he just retire the car after like 50 laps?
Yeah, I think there was
just like, I've had enough.
There's like 15, maybe 20 laps left, and I think they just decided to sack it off. And I don't
blame them. I don't blame them for that. But
on the other hand, Pierre Gasly's done pretty well. He had a good.
On the other hand, Pierre Gasly went from 20th, I think,
P20 to P9.
So
solid.
The car's solid. It's obviously got some pace. It can overtake and whatever else. It was just not Esteban Ocon's day, and I do feel sorry for him. But it did get funny. It did.
I think sometimes you just know, don't you? Like it is just one of those days. Like I think that's why he sacked it off, because I fully believe if he served the full race, there was at least one more penalty coming. Like you just know something stupid would have happened.
He was going to get black. He was going to get black and white flag for track limits or something again, or something else would have happened.
Yeah,
he'd have run into the back of somebody because he'd have just been so red misted by that point that he'd have just not cared and sent a crazy lunge up the inside of somebody and spun.
Like you would be right. Like the amount of work that goes into an F1 weekend. Imagine it just all being taken away from you because of just like silly, tiny little errors. Like you'd be pretty fuming, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was pretty fuming because, of course, from the fantasy point of view, I had Ocon instead of Gasly as an Alpine driver. So, nice one. Yeah, so he got 5 points because he out-qualified Gasly, but then that was all he got.
I suppose that's better than nothing.
Gasly racked up a fair few points for all the places
he did all right.
So, yeah, I do feel sorry for Alpine. But, from Esteban's point of view, surely that's all his penalties out of the way for the season.
That's true. You'd hope his luck is good for the next
22 races. Right?
Yeah, you'd imagine he's got it out of the way early doors.
He's got plenty of get out of jail cards, or at least hang on, I've served my penalty enough now. You choose another number, please, stewards. Yeah. Even the stewards must be. Could you imagine it in the next race though? If the steward is like, oh no, I'm going to have to call Esteban Ocon's number. Surely I can't.
Should we just let him have this one?
Just let him have that one. Look, he was literally 0.01 kilometers an hour. You know, he missed the line, but let him off. Just guys, come on, because otherwise,
allow it. Yeah.
Let that one go. Otherwise, he's just going to put it in the. He's going to put it in the timing wall or something. He's going to send it into the FIA box or something. But so crazy for him. But bless him for sticking with it. But not
fair effort. Don't know if I'd have had the patience for it.
I think after the third one, after the 10-second time penalty, I'd have just been like, "Oh, there's something wrong with the steering. Retire the car." I'm just like, put it in the garage and get out and just walk away. I'm pretty sure.
Don't come back to Bahrain for another 364 days. Yeah, just
never want to see the desert again. Just leave me be. I'd imagine the debrief was quite tasty in Alpine after that.
Oh boy, I can imagine that was fun.
Yeah.
Got to be a fly on the wall in that.
That would have been nasty. Horrid first race for McLaren.
Crikey. What happened, mate? Run me through it, because that... Oh, my God.
Just dire. Just absolutely dire. First of all, barely got out of Q1.
Yeah.
With Lando, didn't look quick, did not look fast at all.
Because Sargent set exactly the same time, right? Like, literally identical times.
Yeah. He crossed the line and it came up. The gap to Norris was 0.0000.
But because
exactly the same
Lando
time.
set
Norris
time first,
meant was through. Yeah. So I mean, they weren't quick, but then Lando put it on 11, got P11, which everyone's like, well, you almost made top 10, and then he kind of went, I was 0.4 seconds off. I wasn't really close to the top 10 at all. I was 4.
I guess on paper, yes, but when you actually look at it, not really. Yeah.
I was 11th, which is one spot below 10th, but I was also, in basically a different postcode from
the big spot. Yeah,
big spot. Yeah. So but then it looks like Piastri, I think, got in hydraulic issues pretty early on. I think he was pretty much out the race 3 or 4 laps in for him, which is not the greatest start. Not the greatest.
And the car literally either stalled or something happened. But of all the places for the car to break, I found it quite funny that it stopped working in the pit box. I thought, oh my God, that's almost perfect. That's where it stopped working.
Yeah. It's almost like if it's going to go anywhere, it's happened there. And I think there was, and I haven't managed to find it, but I'm pretty sure I saw a picture. He had a blue screen of death on his steering wheel. They had to change his steering wheel. When they put the new one on, he got the blue screen restart. And it was just like that. If anything you're going to get, don't get a blue screen of death on that.
Literally, what?
Somebody go Control Alt Delete and restart the system. It's like not going to work. It's not.
Well, because I kept thinking, because he was sat there for so long, and I was like, well, like, is he coming back out? I was like,
do something. I was thinking maybe just like, okay, he's kind of.
If the car's dead, surely they'd have wheeled it back into the garage by now. But I was like, it's still there, and my brother was like, well, if the car's stopped, like, that's it. And I was like, well, that's what I thought, but like, he's got to still be out there for a reason. He's not just sat there for.
Just go out and get some laps in, or you're a Formula One. It's on your debut.
The race is done, but just maybe get some time in. But yeah,
use it as an extra testing session or something. But no, they just binned it off and parked him, and then Lando's car just ended up with some sort of
what was going on?
Weird leak.
Strategy.
Some hydraulic fluid or something.
Topping up hydraulic fluid every time he came in, right?
And he had to come in 6 times, I think.
It's like 5 or 6 times that.
6 times he had to come in because it just kept leaking out or being used up or whatever else. So his race was just.
I'm not an engineer, and I'm not going to claim to be, but that feels dangerous.
It feels to me like you're doing the engine no fun and no harm.
I was going to say, at what point do you just do an Esteban Ocon and just say, right?
Yeah. Oops, something's over rev it or pop it in the red. Should we just park this one?
Just protect it for next week, boys. Maybe. Yeah. But no, I mean, fair play. They kept at it, but yeah, that was some rough watching. Like I'm not even a McLaren fan. Even I was just sat there thinking, like, oh my God, just let it go. Like it's gone. Why are we doing this?
It was almost like they felt they had to, because obviously Bahraini investment in McLaren is pretty huge. They own like
true.
49% or something. So, they had to kind of be on track for some.
Had to be a show of some sort. Yeah.
But it did feel like it got to the stage where it's like, it's actually harming yourself to still be out there now. This is not the car. This is not, we all say there's no such thing as bad PR, but that was starting to get
That's not a good look.
It's just not a good look having to kind of come in 6 times and top up it was literally some bloke with a petrol can just topping up. It didn't look great in your car.
No.
I mean, yes, the car was fast, and there was moments where I think he got lapped by Nando and Lewis.
And he stayed with them.
He basically stayed with them for 6 laps and then had to come in because he was out of hydraulic fluid again. It's like,
that's outrageous. Like, how is this happening?
How was a team so, precise as McLaren? What happened? What's gone wrong?
Yeah, because we're not talking about like just some random tiny.
We're not talking about Haas, right? We're not talking in all, greatest
like
respect.
McLaren are like a
small
full-on institution of F1. We're not just talking about some random geezers that have chucked an F1 car together. Like, this is a very successful Formula One team.
It's not like the 70s with Hesketh Racing or some independents who've just put a car together for one race and turned up.
Yeah, some guys haven't just bought like an F1 kit car and chucked it out on track, right? Like, this is a pedigree racing team. What is going on? Yeah, it's very strange.
Some head scratching moments there, and not the best start. And it doesn't look, and from a concept, and it looks like the car is pretty slow. I think what Lando was saying in some of his interviews was there's a very small window where the car works, and it's very easy to make the slightest error that gets you out of that very small window. So it's like
it smells like Mercedes right there.
smells a bit like there's a Mercedes issue there, whereby you have to have an absolute perfect lap every single lap, and if you outbrake yourself, or if you turn a little bit too early, the car either snaps or bites or whatever else.
Like, as good as these drivers are, that's just not going to happen. Like, you can't be perfect all the time.
And knowing, and the thing is, I suppose from a driver's point of view, if you know the car's slightly iffy, you can't go fast. You can't fully commit to it because you don't know if it's going to suddenly break or
that's got to be a scary position for a driver. You're like
hideous, isn't it?
When you're driving obviously as fast and as powerful a machine as that, you've got to be not like at one with it. Like, I hate it when people say that, but you have to trust that machinery quite physically with your life. And if that is the package that's being presented to you, like, okay, we're going to need you to come in every 10 laps to top up this fluid that's leaking. Who in their right mind, like, I'm fully aware F1 drivers are a little bit insane. You have to be a bit crazy to want to throw yourself around corners like that. But who is, in their right mind going to sit there and be like, I trust this car?
That's fine. I've got no hydraulics. That's fine. It's not a problem. This car doesn't
run. Who needs those? That's fine.
This car doesn't run fully on hydraulics at all. They don't, my brakes don't rely on hydraulic. Oh, wait. Yes, they do. So,
but look at the pretty orange.
Look at the pretty papaya. Look at the pretty carbon. Look at we're sponsored by Chrome. Ooh,
yeah, it's just mate. Oh my god, not an enviable position that weekend.
So fair play for Lando. 6 pit stops. I think he might have won the bingo of how many pit stops. What's the maximum number of pit stops a team will do? Who knows?
Yeah, if that's on an F1 bingo card, you've probably done quite well there, actually.
I scored 4 on my bingo card this week, which is almost as full line. Yeah. Teammates collision. Got one of those.
Okay, yeah, good.
Post-race penalty. Nico Hulkenberg. Black and got a 5-second penalty for track limits. Perez on the podium.
Very nice.
Fernando Alonso to get driver of the day.
Very nice. That's a clean race
4.
one.
I need 1 square to win my F1 bingo. Unfortunately, the square I need is we are going to plan E.
Oh, now do you know what? I can see that. Although weirdly, Ferrari actually stuck with plan A this week. That felt odd. Like just hearing them after, like, yes, Charles, we're sticking to plan A. I was like, what now?
But you're 40 seconds off the pace. And
what's happening? This is plan A. Is it going well? Question mark. This is what we want.
This is expected. This is what you want.
Hello.
To get out.
Yeah. Like, what's going on?
So further down the grid, so Mercedes, as we say, picked up a reasonable chunk of points.
Mm-hmm.
Reasonable enough for them, but obviously the big news being that they are basically tearing their car up and starting again.
Quite.
Alex Albon getting a point for Williams.
Albon. Solid weekend. And
solid weekend for Albon.
I actually want to give some props to Logan Sargent as well, actually. I think he just quite quietly went about his business and looked comfortable and pulled off some good racing.
which is fine. You didn't.
But
You
I
don't want
think in
that
your
from your
F1 debut,
first.
you kind of almost want that. If you massively overperform, people almost expect too much of you. Like I remember
Yeah,
Yuki Tsunoda's debut when he full on sent it on Alonso, got points in his debut, and everyone was expecting him to blow up, and
yep.
it didn't happen. And like that is fine. He's a rookie, but almost a lot of you is expected if you smash it on your debut. So I think going about a quiet race, no incidents. I think in terms of a debut, especially for like a very midfieldy team like a Williams, I think you've done quite well. And like
Very.
to be within touching distance, like I know their overall race times were sort of fairly different, but to only be what was it like 2 positions off your
2 seconds.
teammate who's a
Yeah, I think he
very
finished 12th, didn't he?
established, yeah, he was close enough. So I think to be that close to a driver who at this point is a pretty well established F1 driver, that's a pretty solid debut in my books. Like you'd be pretty happy with that.
Oh, definitely. I think Williams themselves were very happy with what they
Yeah, for
managed
sure.
to get out of there. I mean, 10th and 12th in the first race. Why would you not be happy with that one?
I mean, compared to where they were last year, God, you'd take that after race 1, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely would. So, yeah, we've got Gasly, as we mentioned, who's snuck into 9th from 20th. A great, quiet drive from him. Didn't really see a lot of him, but suddenly he
just
popped
went
up
about
in
his
the ninth.
business, just
Yeah.
efficient. Did the job he needed to do, and again, I think for your first race for a new team, that's good. You'd take it,
Yeah.
wouldn't you? Really?
You'd have to take that one. And then who? So I'm trying to remember who it was now. Bear with me. I'm trying to get the results up, and I can't remember exactly. So Verstappen, Perez, Alonso, Sainz, Lewis, then Russell.
Lewis.
No, sorry, Lewis.
No, Lance got
Lance,
George, didn't he? Yeah.
Then George for 7th. So 8th was. That's the one that's bugging me. Who got 8th? I want to say it was.
No, Pierre got 9th. Albon
Pierre got 10th.
Oh, was it Valtteri?
Did Valtteri just sneak in there quite happily? I think
Was
he
it?
might have done.
Was it a cheeky mullet, man?
Oh, cheeky mullet and moustache.
Was it a cheeky little mullet boy? I think it might have been.
Oh, you might be right. That might be the one.
I have a feeling. I'm pretty sure it was Valtteri Bottas.
I think you might be right. Yeah, looking at that, I think that Bottas scored 13 bonus points, 22 points for the race. Yeah, must have been. Yeah, 4 points for the race.
Yeah, there we go.
Good shout. Cheeky
Bottas just calmly going about his business again.
Nice and quiet, outscoring his teammate, who I thought was quality, pitting 2 laps before the end and smashing in the fastest lap to take away that extra point from anybody else. Because I think Guan Zheng Yu finished in 18th, but he had the fastest lap of the race or something. So
yeah, so obviously he doesn't get the extra point, unfortunately, because of the rule. You have to finish within the top 10, whatever, blah blah blah. But yeah, no, I think I'm expecting. I'm quietly confident about Alfa Romeo. I think they might pull up some trees this season. That's a fairly all right looking car.
Yeah. I was surprised the Alpha Tauris didn't do better. I thought they'd be a little higher up.
I wasn't. Like they kind of have moments. Yeah, they have moments where they look good, and then like a fair amount of mediocre. And I don't really understand that. Like I know obviously the semantics between Red Bull and AlphaTauri are a bit cloudy at the moment, but when they can clearly build a ridiculously good car, you'd imagine they would give the sister team something to make their car a bit more competitive. Like,
it does seem to be, yeah. I mean, unless stipulations or regulations are quite, strong on the fact that you can't.
That's true, actually. Yeah, I haven't read the rule book like inside and out, so there's probably because I remember when Aston Martin or Racing Point supposedly bought things from Mercedes, that kind of kicked off quite a lot. So I don't know the entire semantics, but I think in terms of AlphaTauri, I think good result for Yuki, because I think when Yuki has been Pierre's teammate, I think if Pierre beats Yuki, nobody questions it.
Yep.
If Nick De Vries now comes in and beats Yuki, there are some serious question marks over his head. So I think good result for Tsunoda, because not only he's finished 2 positions ahead of Nick De Vries, which is a good start. I guess you can also look at it as like De Vries got lapped, Tsunoda didn't. So that's But again, it's only the first race. Like, there's a lot still to come here. But I think for a first race from Yuki, you'd be pretty happy with that. And to be fair, only just over a second behind Albon, so pretty close to the
Yeah,
points.
he was close. I thought he was catching him at some point. It did look like he was going to sneak that last point. But
especially in a car that wasn't looking like fantastic. So to be fair, that's actually quite a good result for Tsunoda, because I think this year he really needs to up his game. Probably, I think this is a big.
He's got a few more eyes on him, and I think he's had that year of you were a rookie, you were amazing, and then you had a blip sort of second year. This is your big year now, Yuki. You really need to lead this team. So, and
I think he either makes it, or this could be a break year for Yuki, big time.
And we know that Red Bull and the academy, and there's plenty of other people who could be easily dropped into that seat. So
yeah, they're pretty brutal. They don't
hang around, and they've got a reasonably good reserve driver sitting for the main team who could easily sit in that car and probably score some points with it. So watch out for that. I mean, I'm sure Daniel Ricciardo must have enjoyed Sunday watching a different Australian suffer with a McLaren failure.
Yeah, you've got to think, like, at least at the moment, Daniel's got to be laughing. Like,
I'm kind of glad I'm out of that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he got paid to leave the McLaren job. And then
because he left his contract a year early. So there must have been... didn't he sign a 3-year deal? So there must have been at least the compensation for the year that he's not been at the team.
Yeah. Very much like Ferrari did with Raikkonen back in the day or whatever.
So then to go be, I mean, I know he's the reserve driver, but to go be the reserve driver for a car that looks disgustingly dominant, and to be watching your old team kind of floundering like that, you'd probably say he's relatively happy with that move.
And he knows let's be honest, he knows the Red Bull family. He came through the Red Bull family.
And he's loved there. Like, they adore him. Like, I remember how much of a big deal it was when he was leaving. Like, I think that was one of the things that Drive to Survive covered really well, is like just how like fuming Red Bull were that Renault had stolen their driver. Like, obviously not the golden child. Like, it was clear that Verstappen was going to be the thing, but like, they love Daniel. So I think they're happy.
I think he'd been there since he was 12 or something. So
he'd had a long affiliation with the program. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, there we go. So let's have a quick look at the league, shall we?
Oh,
you want to see this? Are you ready?
I've just had a look.
Not the greatest of starts for you, but you are not last.
Whoever Norman team is, my man.
Yilag, well done.
Thank you for making me look good.
Not setting up, and not making a prediction or doing anything.
Thank you so much.
Made Matty look not as bad as it could be.
No, I've had a bit of a whiffer, I won't lie, but that's all right. It's a long season.
Early days. Yeah.
Exactly. We can bring it back, mate. I believe.
I mean, you scored 108 points still. I mean, did you get what were your predictions? Did you get close to your predictions? Or?
I'm not gonna lie. I have a horrific feeling that I forgot to make them, which is just
not after what we said.
Exactly. Not. I think I think I made them as a joke and then forgot to actually fully do them.
I mean, I nailed the top three because, even though I had to change them after last week, because when I called this on the show and I was like, I've got to back it up, right? I've got to put it in.
Hats off to you, mate. Absolute screamer for bringing that out.
Screamer of a top three. I thought, I'll take that.
Because I was so far in that, no, Aston Martin aren't actually going to be good. And then the official Fantasy GP account tweeted that they're like, maybe Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin are a bit underpriced. And I was like, nah, mate, shut up. And I'm like, Jesus, no.
Oops, maybe. So, yeah, I mean, I did okay. I got the first three, got Verstappen as pole. I think pretty much everyone had Verstappen as pole. Right? So
that would be a fair assumption. Yeah, because I'm assuming because I put every prediction as Nico Hülkenberg, I think. And then, because I put them as a joke live on air, and then I believe I forgot to twaddle those around.
You won't be making that mistake, will you? You won't be making that mistake. So that's the point.
No,
yeah.
Don't do that, kids.
Don't do that. So
don't
learn from the best. Don't put silly predictions in.
Yes, learn from the best. Big quotation marks there.
So there we go. So that's where we are with the league. One race in, we'll start to look towards the next race soon. I mean, we've got 2 weeks to prepare.
There's a long way to go. I still have at least my brother who wants to join as well. So he'll be a race behind. So he'll make me look better.
He'll at least be 100 points
inevitably
behind.
catches me. Yeah. We'll see.
Maybe save it for race 3 to invite him in. Then
do you reckon we'll leave it till like the summer break and I'll be like, Richard, actually
forgot to invite you. Sorry, I did say that thing. Yeah, quick.
In you come.
Brilliant. In you come, laddie. In you come. You can come in now. I've got 600 points. I think you won't catch me. Yeah.
Crikey, has that been almost an hour? That's gone so fast.
That's flown by. It's just gone over the hour mark.
I just love talking about speedy cars. Do you know what? Actually, that was probably my favorite memory. Or like I say, memory. The race was yesterday. But like it was so sweet. I went over to my brother's house to watch the race because it was first race this season. We were all excited. Yep. And my nephew is like a year and a half old, bless him, and he's like every year and a half year old. He just loves to film cars. So he was asleep for most of it, but he came down for the last like 20 minutes and he just kept pointing at the TV and saying vroom vroom, and I was like, oh my god,
that's all you want.
My boy. So yeah, he was
the ideal Sunday there, wasn't it?
He was cute. He was having a good time. So yeah, no, it's yeah, it was a good. I mean, although I guess I think the fight at the front was, I say fight at the front. That was a little bit boring, but I think everything that happened behind that has made me quite excited for maybe not the title fight, but I think there's going to be some. I think it's going to be an interesting power struggle. Certainly I think Mercedes, Aston Martin, Ferrari is going to be huge.
It's going to be tasty all season. I think that is.
And I think that might fluctuate from track to track, but that's going to be very fun to keep an eye on who's on top there.
That's going to. I think it's right. You're looking at it. Red Bull are going to win drivers and constructors by
probably quite comfortably. Yeah.
Quite comfortably, and probably be halfway through the season start planning next year's car. That's how far ahead those guys are. Then you've got those Aston, Ferrari, Mercedes battle, which I think is going to be a ding dong. With the
and then I also think everything behind that as well. I think it's going to be like Alpha. I think McLaren are going to get better. I'd expect Haas to probably pull out some better results. Like I think, like I said at the very beginning of the show, I think as long as you're not overly fussed about watching a big title fight, I think if you're happy with watching everything behind that unfold, I think this could still be a very interesting season. Like I really do think there's going to be lots to see and lots to watch, but just maybe not right at the front.
Maybe not right at the very front. I don't think you'll see much of the leaders and this season.
No, because it kind of hit me at the end of the race when they showed like Max's last lap. I was like, this is kind of the most I've seen of him all afternoon. Yeah, he's just not really been here.
How's Max's race doing? Oh well, he's 40 seconds up the road and he's got nobody near him.
It's like there's even that clip that's come out. It's on Twitter. I think I might have retweeted it, but like Max's engineer even tells him, like Max is like, okay, well, like, do you need me to keep this pace? Do you need me to speed up? And even his engineer is like, I won't lie to you, Max. There's no race at the moment. Like, just this is your target lap time. Bring it home. And it's like, God, that's depressing. Like,
it's lovely for them, but depressing for the rest of the pack. But first race, it's early days. There's been some exciting racing.
Yeah, who knows? This could all go Pete Tong in a couple of weeks' time, but I don't think it will.
Red Bull might Ferrari themselves. Stranger things have happened.
Stay tuned. They might not. They probably won't, but they might do.
But they might. It's just in case you heard it here first.
This is the copium of an F1 fan.
This is what we live for. As you say, Matty, it's been an hour of great fun. This has been Let's Talk Sport F1. Where's the other one?